Let's come into child's pose. Bring your big toes to touch and separate your knees slightly wider apart than your hips. You can fold your hands underneath your forehead if you like. And just start to turn your attention inside. Become aware of your breath, breathing smoothly in and out through your nose. Relax your shoulders. Relax your facial muscles. Take another full breath. And then when you're ready, stretch your arms out in front of you. And spread your fingers evenly apart, and then move forward onto your hands and knees. Tuck your toes under and move into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And bring your feet as wide apart as the width of your mat. Align the outer edges of your feet with the sidelines of your mat. And bring your hands as wide apart as the width of your mat and turn your hands out slightly. This first down dog, just give your body a little bit more space. Take some nice, deep, full breaths here. Firmly press your hands and fingers into the floor. Especially press more through your inner palms and firm your outer upper arms in. And evenly press the inner and outer thighs back as you start to walk your hands back to your feet. Keep your feet that wide apart and bend your knees. Enough so that your rib cage is resting on your thighs. Press a bit more firmly through the inner edges of your feet and widen the inner knees apart. Relax your neck and shoulders. So this is more about decompressing your spine, not necessarily getting a deep hamstring stretch. And then bring your feet in about hips width. Parallel your feet, all 10 toes pointing straight ahead. And then bring your hands to your hips and then come halfway up. Keep your knees bent and elongate your spine. Interlace your fingers. And with your elbows bent, lift your shoulders. Broaden across your collarbones and then slowly straighten your arms. If your chest muscles are tight, you can always use a strap between your hands about shoulder width apart. And then fold forward, take the arms with you. And stretch from your shoulders to your hands. And lift your shoulders up away from your ears. And again, bend your knees generously. Relax your neck. Let your head be heavy. And bring your hands to your hips, slide your hands down the sides of your legs. And then walk your hands forward, come back to Adho Mukha Svanasana. So now your feet are about hips width. Hands can be about shoulder width apart, but you might find it helpful to turn your hands out a bit if your shoulders are tight. So spread your fingers, spread your toes. Bring your attention to your breath, breathing smoothly in and out through your nose. If your hamstrings are tight, it's always smart to bend your knees to more easily elongate your spine, so keep that in mind. Walk your feet up to your hands. And then bend your knees a little bit. Bring your hands to your hips. And then leading with your chest, inhale, come all the way up. Standing in mountain pose, Tadasana. And turn the palms of your hands to face straight ahead to broaden across your collarbones. And inhale, circle your arms overhead, look up. You can seal your hands. And then exhale, hinging from your hips, fold. You can always bend your knees here. And then inhale, lengthen your spine, reach your sternum away from your navel. And then as you exhale, step your right foot back, coming into a high lunge. And check that you step the right foot far enough back so that your left knee is above your left ankle. And press your right thigh up towards the ceiling. And then from here, place your hands flat and step into plank pose. Lengthen your buttocks to your heels and firm your belly and front ribs up towards your back body. Broaden across your collarbones and press more firmly through your inner palms. Firm your triceps in. And then maintain that as you press back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale, reach your right leg behind you, three-legged down dog, leading with the inseam of the leg. And then bring your right knee to your chest and place your right foot up between your hands. You might have to carry the foot part of the way. So again, check that your right shin bone is perpendicular to the floor. And press your left thigh up towards the ceiling. You might be better off onto your fingertips here. And then step your left foot forward. Fold forward. Continue with the feet about hips width. And then inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. So you can choose to slide your hands up the sides of your legs. And then exhale, fold. Inhale, spread your arms out to the side, leading with your chest. Come all the way up. And exhale, hands in front of your chest. Anjali Mudra. Inhale, circle your arms overhead. And exhale, fold. Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. And as you exhale, this time step your left foot back into a high lunge. And this time bring your left knee down, coming into a low lunge. And choose to be up onto your fingertips to more easily open your chest. A little bit of a deeper hip flexor stretch. And then when you're ready, re-straighten the back leg. If it's possible, plant your hands flat, step into plank pose. And press your heels back as you reach the crown of your head forward. And then please come onto your forearms. Do the best you can to have your elbows underneath your shoulders. Interlace your fingers. So this is a little bit of a stronger abdominal workout when you come onto your forearms. Okay, so firm your belly, front ribs up towards your back body, and then come back into plank pose on your hands and back to Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then inhale, reach the left leg behind you. And exhale, bring your knee to your chest, round your back, and then step the left foot up between your hands. And you might have noticed that I chose to come up onto the fingertips of the left hand. Makes it easy to step the foot through. And then bring your right knee down, low lunge. You can always choose to use blocks underneath your hands. I find that that's very helpful to more easily shrug my shoulders back and open up my chest. Think about using props to create more space. And then re-straighten the back leg and step your right foot forward. And continue with the feet about hips width. And then inhale, lengthen your spine. And using blocks here can be really helpful. Exhale, fold. And then inhale. Spread your arms out to the side, come all the way up, and exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, circle your arms overhead, and exhale, hinging from your hips, move forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, reach your sternum away from your navel, and exhale, step your right foot back. Move the blocks out of the way now. If it's possible, plant your hands flat, step into plank pose, and then, of course, we all place our hands flat. Then you can bring your knees down here, but keep firming your belly, front ribs in. Lean forward, and then very slowly bend your elbows. Keep your elbows close to the side ribs, and you lower halfway down. Inhale, push up. And exhale again, halfway down, broaden across your collarbones. Inhale, push up. So as you lower down, you need to lean forward a little bit and then lower all the way down. Have your feet about hips width. Spread your toes and be right onto the center top of each foot. And then inhale, Shalabhasana variation. There are many. Palms of the hands facing the floor. And then turn the palms of your hands to face one another. Reaching your fingertips straight back. And then leading with the inseams of your legs, lift your feet and legs up off the floor. Press out through the balls of your feet. Tuck your chin in a little bit. Lead with your sternum. It's a great pose to strengthen the whole back of your body. And place your hands by your lower ribs, low cobra, belly is on the floor. And then lower down just a little bit, but keep the head of your shoulders lifted. And then lift your hips a bit, but firm your belly in. Tuck your toes under. And then push back up onto your hands and knees. And then back to downward facing dog. So what we did is a great preparation for learning to do Chaturanga Dandasana correctly. Inhale, stretch your right leg up behind you. Exhale, step the foot up between your hands. You might have to carry it part of the way. And then step your left foot forward. And inhale, lengthen your spine. And exhale, bow. Uttanasana. Inhale, rise up. And exhale, hands to your heart, back to center. Soften your gaze. Pressing the tops of your thighs back, lengthening the buttocks to your heels, and draw your belly, front ribs in. Inhale, circle your arms overhead, and exhale, fold Uttanasana. So absolutely fine to bend your knees. Inhale, lengthen your spine. And exhale, step your left foot back, and step into top of a push-up, plank pose. So hug the frontal torso up towards your back body. Look at least a foot or so in front of your fingertips. Push the floor away from you. And then start to come forward with your chest. Your shoulders come in front of your wrist, lower halfway down Chaturanga, and then all the way down. Point your toes. This time interlace your fingers behind your back. You can, again, always use a strap here, about shoulder width apart. So bend your elbows, lift your shoulders, and then inhale, lift up. So another Shalabhasana variation, locust variation. So this gives you a little bit more leverage to lift your chest higher. And then place your hands by your lower ribs back into low cobra with the option to do high cobra. Pelvis is still on the floor in high cobra, and just keep your elbows bent to more easily shrug your shoulders back and down. And of course, you can also choose to come into upward facing dog. So you lift your whole body above the floor. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, and then exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Shift a little bit more weight into your fingers. Strongly press through the mounds of your fingers. And align your ears with the inner upper arms. And again, you can always bend your knees here. And then inhale, raise your left leg behind you. And exhale, step the foot up between your hands. And once again, you can use your hand to lift the leg the rest of the way. And then step your right foot forward. Now you're welcome to step your feet all the way together. My recommendation is to continue with your feet apart. If you simply balance better with the feet apart, also if you have tight hamstrings. The tendency is to shift way too much weight into the heels. So see if you can stack your hips above your ankles. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Firm your outer hips in. Inhale again, rise all the way up. And exhale, we're back to center, Samastitihi, Tadasana. Inhale, circle your arms overhead. Exhale, bow, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Keep the weight centered to the front of your heels. And then exhale, step back into plank pose. Again, come forward with your chest. And with control, slowly either lower all the way down or Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, transition directly into up dog. And then exhale, down dog. So if it's better for your body to lower all the way down, please continue doing that. It's easy to focus on the alignment of the shoulder girdle. Then inhale, raise your right leg behind you. Exhale, step the right foot up between your hands. Now place your block by the outer right ankle. Set the back foot flat. Make sure the back foot is turned in slightly. Pin the outer right hip in. And then bring your right forearm on top of your right thigh and left hand to your left hip. So this is a variation of Parshvakonasana, extended side angle pose. So keep firming the outer right hip in, lining up sitting bone to knee to second toe. Reach your left arm vertically up. Make sure you're not sitting in that right shoulder, move up and out of the right shoulder. A little bit more weight to the back foot. And then inhale, Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Do the best you can to level the rim of your pelvis. You need to tuck that left hip in a bit. Lift your right hip. Now as you firm the right buttock underneath you, slowly straighten your right leg. Keep the right knee in line with the second, third toe, and then transition into triangle pose, Trikonasana. So I'm choosing to use a block. I bring the ground up a little bit closer. And for most of us, that way it's easier to lengthen the right side of our torso. If you're very flexible, you might be able to just simply cup the floor with your fingertips or grab hold of your right ankle. Grabbing hold of the big toe is a variation that's done when we have a much shorter stance. And then bring your left hand to your left hip. Step the back foot in a little closer. Now you can take the block with you. Reach your right hand forward at least a foot in line with the outer edges of your right foot. And then transition into half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. So you can bend your right knee a little bit to more easily reach your right sitting bone towards the left heel. And then re-straighten the right leg if you like. You can also extend your left arm vertically up. So I'm looking down, but you're welcome to slowly turn your head and look up towards the top hand. It's a bit more challenging. And flex your left foot, spread your toes, and then bring your hand back to your hip and very slowly bend your right knee and reach your left foot way, way back and coming back now into Parshvakonasana, more classical. So the right hand is on the block by the outer ankle. And then turn the left hand to face the ceiling and reach your left arm over your cheek. Now again, you might be able to get away with cupping the floor with your fingertips, not using the block. But notice if you can really lengthen the right side of the torso. And then bring your left hand down, come back into the high lunge. Move into downward facing dog. And then inhale, plank pose. You can sit your knees down as you lower down. It's a variation. Again, you can do up dog or you can do cobra or low cobra. And then we meet back in down dog. So again, maybe your vinyasa is where you come into chaturanga and move directly into up dog. Now inhale, raise your left leg behind you. And exhale, step the foot through. Take your time to get the alignment correct. Left knee above the left ankle. You can use a block there by the outer left ankle. You can also use your left thumb to the left outer hip, pin it in, set the back foot flat, and come into a variation of Parshvakonasana. So I'm showing with my hand here the need, or it's very good to firm the outer left hip in for the health of your left knee. And then reach your right arm vertically up. See if you can already now find more length on the left side of your torso. A little bit more weight to the back foot. Lift your right inner ankle. And then inhale into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Again, keep tracking your left knee in line with your second toe. And at the same time, press the top of your right thigh bone back. Lift your left hip. Level your pelvis the best you can. On this side, it's hard for me to completely level my pelvis. And then straighten your left leg and come into Trikonasana, triangle pose. You'll likely find that one side is just different than the other. So again, lengthen the left side of your torso. I hyperextend my left knee, so I initially put a bend in my left knee and then put a little bit more pressure on the mound of the left big toe. And then bring your right hand to your right hip. Step the right foot in a little bit closer. Reach your left hand forward at least a foot, and then transition into half moon Ardha Chandrasana. So again, maybe initially put a bend in your left knee to more easily line up your knee with the second, third toe. And then you can always slowly re-straighten the leg. You can choose to reach your right arm vertically up. And again, if you feel really steady here, maybe slowly turn your gaze towards the top hand. Flex your right foot, spread your toes. We're not trying to stack the top hip above the bottom hip. More important to line up the left knee with the second toe. And then step back with the right foot, coming into the more classical Parshva Konasana. And then turn the palm of the right hand to face the ceiling, reach your arm over your cheek, and press your left knee against your left arm to firm the left buttock underneath you. And maybe turn your belly chest a little bit more towards the ceiling in that direction. And then once you're ready, bring your right hand down, coming into the high lunge, back into down dog. And then inhale, plank pose, and exhale, maybe chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or cobra. It's not a bad idea to turn your hands out a little bit here, and then down dog. So especially if you have tightness in your shoulders, turning the hands out a little bit makes it easier to externally rotate your shoulders. Let's come into child's pose. Just pause here for a moment. This is where we started the practice. Many times it's in the pause where we really can feel yoga, the yoking of body, mind, and spirit. Or just a moment of stillness and reconnecting with your breath. And then when you're ready, no rush, stretch your arms out in front of you and let's move back into down dog. But at any point, you can always choose child's pose. Now bend your knees, look between your hands, lightly hop or simply step your feet up between your hands. Inhale, lengthen your spine, and exhale, fold. Uttanasana. Inhale, press your feet into the floor, lift up, and exhale, hands to your heart. So allow your gaze to be soft, introspective. Inhale, Utkatasana, chair pose. And shift more weight into your heels. And when that happens, our lower back will sway too much. So lift your hip points and draw your lower ribs in, just to give your lower back a little bit more length. So Utkatasana, you can also seal your hands and look up. And then exhale, fold, Uttanasana. And then inhale, reach your sternum away from your navel. And exhale, step back into plank pose. Lower down, perhaps chaturanga. Inhale, Find your back bend, the one that is the best fit for you. Take your time. And then we meet back in downward facing dog. Inhale, raise your right leg behind you. And exhale, step your right foot up between your hands. Move the right foot a few more inches to your right. Give your body more space. And as you set the back foot flat, see if you can turn it in a little bit more. And then inhale, warrior one. Spin your left inner thigh back. See if you can drive the outer left hip forward. And just like you did in chair pose, lift your hip points, draw your lower belly in. You can look up. You can also seal your hands. Then bring your hands down. Come back into the high lunge. Step into down dog for a moment. And then inhale, plank pose. Slowly, methodically go through the vinyasa. And vinyasa, translated, actually means to place in a special way, so it really implies being mindful. And then inhale, raise your left leg behind you, and exhale, step the foot up between your hands, and move the left foot a little bit more to the left or the right foot more to the right. Set the back foot flat, turn it in generously. And then inhale, warrior one, Virabhadrasana one. So press your right thigh bone back, spin your right inner thigh back, and see if you can drive your right hip forward a little bit more. Lift your hip points. And then when you're ready, come back into the high lunge. Now step into plank pose and slowly lower down. Inhale, you find your back bend. And exhale, downward facing dog. So see if you can smooth out your breath. If you like to practice Ujjayi breathing, you're probably already doing it, creating that whispering, soothing ha sound to your breath. So it feels as if you're breathing in and out through the space between your collarbones. Just a way to slow down the breath. And then step or hop forward. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, and exhale, Uttanasana. Spread your toes. Inhale, Utkatasana. So you can do this with your feet together. If you work with the feet apart, make sure that your knees are as wide apart as your feet. And then come back to Tadasana. So we're working Surya Namaskar B, Sun Salutation B, which definitely generates more heat. And then inhale, Utkatasana, fierce pose, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold, intense stretch. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Ardha means half. Exhale, step back, plank pose. So as you go through the vinyasas, you get tired. Just a reminder to keep broadening across your collarbones. So if you get tired, just bring your knees down first. And as you finish the vinyasa, let's move back into downward facing dog. Inhale, raise your right leg behind you. Exhale, step your right foot up between your hands. Inhale, Virabhadrasana 1. And then exhale, bring your hands down. Slide the right foot back about half of a foot. You might want to use your blocks here. You're going to slowly straighten your right leg. So transitioning into a variation of Parshvottanasana. And in order for you to lengthen your spine, again, the blocks can be very helpful. Now press more firmly through the mound of your right big toe. And see if you can drive the outer right hip back. Bring your hands to your hips and then inhale, come all the way up. Now see if it's possible to square your hips. Inhale, reach your left arm up. Hook the right thumb into the right hip crease. Pin the outer right hip back and in, and then start to come forward. Keep lengthening your spine, exhaling, twisting to your right. Now classically, we place the left hand to the outside of the right foot, maybe on a block. But you might find that it's more user-friendly to place your hand to the inside of the right foot. You can place your right hand to your sacrum and just check, is your sacrum leveled? You might have to press the left thigh bone back a little bit more and firm the outer hips in. And then you can roll your right shoulder back and maybe extend your right arm up. So we aim to level the sacrum. We do the best we can. If your lower back is really stiff, tight, you can let the left hip droop a little bit. You can look up towards your right hand. So this was Parita Trikonasana, twisting triangle pose. Now just go ahead and fold over your right leg. That probably feels really nice. You can always bend your right knee here. Okay, let's come back to downward facing dog. And then you can choose to come into child's pose. Or if you like, you can go through another vinyasa. Every day is different. There's some days where I can do a lot and other days where I just simply can't. So you need to practice in such a way that you're being fed, right? You're taking care of yourself. And then move back into down dog when you're ready. Inhale, raise your left leg behind you, and exhale, step the foot through. Inhale, warrior one. So it's actually rare that we can practice heel to heel in this pose, even though that's in the rule book. For most of us, we need more width. So bring your hands down and slide your left foot back about half of a foot and straighten your left leg. Again, you might consider using blocks. First part of this pose is being here and lengthening your spine. Really important to do, in fact, before we come into a twist. So press a bit more strongly through the mount of the left big toe and drive the outer left hip back and in. Bring your hands to your hips, firm your outer hips in, and then inhale, rise up. A little bit more weight to the back foot. Lift your right inner ankle. Reach your right arm up. Hook the left thumb into the left hip crease. And then exhale. Start to come forward. Keep lengthening your spine, then twisting. And place your right hand onto the block or to the floor. And again, you might do the hand to the inside of the foot instead. With the left hand, you can check your sacrum. If your right hip is drooping a little bit, you might have to just press the right thigh bone back a bit more. And you can also choose to reach your left arm up. I find it really good in the beginning just to look down so I can feel the rotation in the rest of my spine. And then lastly, I might turn my gaze up towards the top hand. But use the inhalation to elongate your spine. Use the exhalation to twist. And then when you're ready, fold over your left leg. If your hamstrings are really tight, just bend your left knee a little bit. And let's find our way back to down dog. You might choose to very slowly go through a vinyasa or skip it. Sometimes less is more. Let's meet back in downward facing dog. And walk your hands back to your feet. Take your middle finger and index finger and reach around your big toes. Inhale, lengthen your spine. You might have to bend your knees here. And then exhale, fold. So pull on your big toes, but press your big toes into your fingers. Lift your shoulders. And widen the inner elbows apart to create a bit more space, a stretch between your shoulder blades. Let your head be heavy. So this is Padangusthasana. Pada means foot. Augusta means big toes. Inhale, lengthen your spine. And then slide your hands underneath your feet. See if you can bring the toes all the way up to the creases of your wrists. And then when you're ready, exhale, fold. And again, you can bend your knees here. So this is a nice way to kind of give your wrists a little bit of a counter stretch. You can massage your wrists with your toes. Lift your shoulders and let your head dangle. Padahastasana. So pada means foot, hasta means hands. Inhale, lengthen your spine. And then walk your hands forward, come back into downward facing dog. And then walk your feet up to your hands. And have your feet about hips width. Inhale, lengthen your spine. And then very slowly start to squat down. Now, if you've had knee issues, I would transition onto the floor carefully in another way. If this feels okay on your knees, see if you can lift your heels a bit higher so you're more into the ball of the foot. You can bring your hands together. So it's a little bit of a toe stretch, but be careful if you have toe issues. And then bring your hands down and sit down. And stretch out your legs. Dandasana. So broaden across your collarbones. I'm going to show you if your hamstrings are tight, it's a bit more challenging to be onto the center of the sitting bones, to draw the lower back in. So if you sit on a blanket, you'll find that it's much easier to draw the lower back in. And then it's just simply better for your lower back in the long run. But you might not need the blanket. Now, as we come into the next pose, you can either choose to sit on that blanket and or also put a roll underneath your knees. We're going to come into Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. So fold forward, and if you're very flexible, you don't necessarily need that blanket underneath your knees. You don't need to sit on a blanket. But if you have tight hamstrings, just know you're normal, right? A lot of people have tight hamstrings. The rolled up blanket underneath your knees can be really helpful. The feet about hips width, and you can put blocks underneath your forehead like I just did. So if you are super flexible, you grab hold of the sides of your feet. You inhale first to lengthen, then exhale, fold. And press a bit more out through the mounds of your big toes. And then you can use your hands to kind of pull the little toes out of each foot back. You can also put a block in front of your feet. So again, we have to kind of meet our body where it's at. And some of you are very flexible, maybe using 2 blocks. A lot of people who do yoga, especially yoga teachers, we come from a background of maybe some gymnastics, some amount of dance classes, so we are a little bit more flexible from the get-go. And then when you're ready, slowly inhale, come up. And bend your knees. And place your hands behind you, about a foot. Turn your hands out and come into reverse tabletop. So make sure your thighs are parallel. And I would not necessarily bring my head back. Just look towards your thighs. Check the alignment of your knees in line with your second, third toe. You can stay in that reverse tabletop or coming into Purvottanasana. So we lift up with the legs straight. And typically the legs are all the way together. And then you reach your toes towards the floor. And structurally, we can't all bring our toes all the way down. A lot of us don't have as much plantar flexion. So you just do the best you can. And then slowly sit down. And then cross your legs with your right leg in front, Sukhasana. If you have a knee issue, or rather, I'm seeing what I'm doing now. If you have a hard time hinging from your hips, but you're bending from your lower back, just like the case was in Paschimottanasana, you can just sit on a blanket again, or maybe 2. I have students who need 3 blankets. So it's the idea of being able to hinge from your hips rather than bending in your lower back. As you can stay on the blanket. If you don't need the blanket, you just sit on the floor and then walk your hands forward. So Sukhasana, typically you cross your legs midway on your shins and you walk your feet forward so you have an open triangle between your legs. And your feet are moderately active, so you press the little toes out of each foot into the floor. Now, if you feel this as knee discomfort, I would do thread the needle on your back instead. You can also choose to do what I'm demonstrating right now, like a Baddha Konasana variation where your feet are at least a foot, maybe a foot and a half in front of your pubic bone. You bring the soles of the feet together, and that might be a good option. Or like I said earlier, you can do thread the needle pose. Otherwise, we stay with this pose a little bit longer to stretch our hips, especially when the right leg is in front. It's the right hip, the muscles in the right hip region that you'll be stretching. What's nice about a block underneath the forehead is that you can relax your neck and your shoulders, so keep that in mind. So when you're ready, come up, stretch out your legs. We're going to change the other side, and it might be that you're on your back and you can just do thread the needle with the opposite leg on top. Otherwise, you're going to cross your legs with the left leg in front and then slowly come forward, maybe a block or two underneath your forehead. It's a nice pose to stretch the outer hips a little bit. So I'm going to show you, if you have some kind of knee discomfort, if you put a blanket between or underneath the left knee, which will typically be the knee that will be bothering you, that might give you a little bit of relief. But if there's any kind of knee discomfort, knee pain, you really need to consider just coming out of the pose and doing a different version. Thread the needle is safe for most of us. I would choose to do that. Some people call it figure 4. So as much as you can, relax your neck and shoulders. Take some nice, deep, long breaths. So we're starting our cool down. No rush. Walk your hands back when you're ready. And then stretch out your legs. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a setup here for Shavasana. So I unfold the blanket, and from the fringe side I roll it into a firm roll. And then I take my 2 blocks, medium height, about an inch apart, and then I put the roll on top of those blocks. And then I swing my legs over, so the blanket is right underneath the back of my knees. Now, in addition, you can use your strap if you like. You need to make a loop. And then you can bring the loop around your thighs. Maybe midway on your thighs, just to keep your thighs parallel. It's a little bit more relaxing on the hip flexors if you can have your legs more or less in neutral so that your knees are pointing straight up. And then eventually lie down on your back. Now there are more things you can do here if you like. If you have more props, you can put a folded blanket underneath your head and neck. I'm choosing to let go of my ponytail here because many times that will create more flexion of the neck, meaning that the back of my neck will be pressing into the floor. I want a little bit of space between the neck and the floor. You can also roll up a blanket and place it underneath your ankles. So most importantly here is that you are very comfortable. So allow your eyes to be softly closed. And sensing the back of your body on the floor. Sense the back of your head on the floor. And sense the crown of your head. And bring your awareness to your forehead. And soften the skin on your forehead. And soften the space between your eyebrows. Allow your eyelids to release down towards your cheekbones. And for a moment, feel the air flowing in and out through your nose. gentle touch of air in your nostrils. And bring your attention to your ears. Allow your ears to open up to sounds, like sounds that are a bit more distant. And sounds that are a bit closer. Kind of journey through the hallways of your ears to your inner ears. To the back of your throat. And down to your chest. And just for a moment, imagine that you're able to breathe in through the center of your chest. And then as you exhale, allow your whole body to breathe out. Allowing any tension in your shoulders and arms to release, to relax. And bring your awareness to your belly. And now imagine that you're able to breathe in through your belly. And then as you exhale, allow your whole body to breathe out. Letting go of any tension in your hips and legs. You can place your hands on your belly. Allow your belly to rise as you're breathing in. And to fall back down as you're breathing out. So sensing your body breathing. Maybe noticing that you are a bit more calm and centered. Perhaps gradually allow your breathing to become a little deeper. You can rub your hands together if you like, and place the heels of your hands to the top of your cheekbones, palms of your hands covering your eyes. And just take your time to eventually